Everyone in life is going to deal with different challenges. Some of them are setbacks, some are more mild, some are more severe. This can be a loss in a family, loss of a friend, a tragedy, a loss of a job, different disruptions, upheavals. No one in this world is immune to these different vicissitudes. As I said, some more extreme than others. Everybody. What will define you as a human being will be how you navigate and deal with these challenges, not whether you have them or not. Now, we should all be blessed, and let me begin right at the outset, to have the minimal amount of difficulties in life. And even when we have them, may they be also as mild as possible, not severe, not extreme, not overly traumatic. That's my blessing and prayer to each of us. But again, what will define you as a person is not whether you will have these setbacks or challenges, but how you're going to deal with them. So we have this fascinating story in the book of Numbers, the story of Balaam the prophet, the alter ego, yes, to Moses. Moses was the greatest prophet of the Jewish people. Balaam was the greatest prophet among the nations. A true prophet he was. Yet he had no love for the Jewish people. So when he was commissioned by Balak, the king Balak of Moab, to curse the Jews because he saw the Jewish people coming, they were marching, remember, from Egypt toward the promised land, and they were coming by, and he became frightened by them. He thought that they would conquer his land. So he commissioned Balaam the prophet to curse them. So long story short, Balaam said, as much as you pay me, as much as I'd love to curse them, since I'm a prophet, I can only say what God puts into my mouth. And of course, what happened was, as he opened his mouth, instead of curses, blessings emerged from a person who wanted to curse them. But then there's a catch to the story. So Balak gets very upset at him and says, I asked you to curse them, why are you blessing them? So they try a second time, and even greater blessings come out of his mouth. And a third time, and even greater blessings. So you'd think the end of the story is only blessings. There is a catch, as we'll talk about a little later. But the most fascinating part is this. Why did it have to work this way? God wants to bless the people, let them bless the people. Find someone who'll bless them. Why does it have to come in this convoluted and backwards way? That he wants to curse them, he's commissioned to curse, the curses turn into blessings. Because this teaches us the key lesson in life about curses that happen to us. That true curses are actually up to us whether they'll be a curse or they'll be a blessing. Because you can have something happen to you in your life and you'll see one person, it destroys them, demoralized, unable to move forward. And another person turns it into an asset, turns it into a tremendous form of growth. Who is it that said, I think it was Thomas Edison, where he experimented, the great inventor. And he would experiment sometimes 1,000 different options that didn't work. They said, 1,000 failures, how'd you manage? He said, it wasn't 1,000 failures. I discovered 1,000 ways that this doesn't work. It's an attitude of how we look at a challenge in our lives. And those that know how to forge ahead, that have something greater that's not defined by whether the success or failure at this moment, but at the bigger picture, we'll see even failures as successes. And that's what the lesson here is. And Moses blessed the people. Well, Moses was, of course, a prophet that would bless, and he did bless. That it came from a place that you would never expect. A person who was commissioned and was interested in cursing. And yet blessings come out of his mouth, and you discover that the greatest blessings in your life sometimes are going to come from your enemies. Even though your enemies don't have your interests in mind. Because it's not about them, and it's not even about you. It's about what you do with the situation. Now again, I want to qualify. Everybody should be blessed only with revealed blessings. Never have to deal with. But I can tell you, I remember when my father passed away, for example, it was very traumatic. It was very difficult. It was the hardest experience in my life. Thank God I was blessed. I did not have serious tragedies as other people have had. But still, I remember that. And I remember how it affected different family members. But I'm not going to talk for them. I'll talk for myself. There are certain things that I did instinctively that helped me not only get through it, but to heal, to become a stronger person. I'm infinitely stronger after that. And it wasn't because I didn't cry. And it wasn't because there wasn't a tragedy and there wasn't a loss. It was because something greater came out of the whole picture. You hear the stories of Helen Keller, born deaf, blind, mute. And you think a person like that, okay, she could just manage day to day. Instead, became a genius of sorts. And others that turned their liabilities into tremendous growth. I remember reading about, I think it was IBM, one big corporation. They hired a new vice president, and he was responsible for certain financial decisions, and he made one financial decision that ended up costing the company over $25 million loss. So he was sure that's it. Called in by his superior, they're going to give him the axe. $25 million loss is quite substantial. Instead, his superior tells him, look, we just paid $25 million for your education. We hope that investment will return to us. Instead of firing him, they let him learn from his mistakes. He ended up generating for the company many, many times over. It wasn't just a vote of confidence. It was obviously a sense that here's a man that, even though he made a mistake, would learn from it. And even though it's $25 million, but at the end of the day, if I recall correctly, he generated for the company over $500 million over time. Profits. This is what it means to take something that's a negative and turn it into a positive. So that was the wisdom of that superior. Now, if he was fired, he could have taken two attitudes. He could have either said, look at me, and basically be depressed for a while, or you learn from it and you grow through it. I know it's said so many times, and everyone says, grow through your challenges and so on. But you have here the story in the best-selling book of all the Bible, about transforming negatives into positives. And it's a lesson that goes back thousands and thousands of years, and both individually and collectively. So when it comes down to our own specific lives, let's think of it that way. Make a list of the things that you consider to be liabilities, difficulties, setbacks. We'll call them in one category curses. The curses in your life. And I don't necessarily mean in a supernatural or superstitious way, all the different where you feel somebody cursed you, but things that did not work out. If you can list 5 things like that in your life, it may be a marriage that failed, it may be a job that failed, it may be a loss in your family, maybe a setback, something you didn't expect in your own in your own circle, in your own world, whatever it may be. Choose the 5 biggest things that you would consider to be didn't work. What happened? Just write one short line. What happened as a result of that? Now you'll have several answers. It could be, I just moved on, and I don't know if I forgot about it. Either I forgot about it or it became less of a problem. Number 2, it still haunts me, and I just can't get over it. So I distract myself, but sometimes I hear that somebody who hurt me, someone who betrayed me, that should also go into the option. So a betrayal, an infidelity, a breached trust, a broken promise, a disappointment, and I just can't get over it. It continues to haunt me. That's option 2. Option 1 was you were able to get through it, not transformed it, you just moved on. Option 2 is no, it continues to bother you. And this could be a childhood experience, it could be an adult experience, really anything that goes into that category. Okay, those are 2 options. Option number 3, which we're going to address, is did you transform it in any way? What did you learn from it? Now, you can learn a lot of things. You can learn, I'm more vulnerable than I thought I was. I'm more fragile than I thought. That's a lesson. That's an important lesson. Because that means that you become aware of something and you don't have to fake trying to be invulnerable. That's very powerful, just a very powerful validation. You don't need to be perfect. Many people who've been hurt in some way or another feel that if people would see it, or if even you acknowledge it, it's like damaged goods, it's like weakness. That itself demoralizing. Not necessarily. Acknowledging a soft spot, a nerve, is actually the first step toward healing. That's one thing you may have learned from it. Another thing you may have learned from it would be certain toxic influences that you have to stay away from. Recently, someone said to me, I have a sibling. Every time I'm there with my sibling, she makes me crazy, brings out the worst in me. So I said, do you have to always see the sibling? Well, they're parties, they're family. I said, but once you've identified that there's a toxic force, you don't have to necessarily go ahead and tit for tat and reciprocate, but maybe you protect yourself. You know, when you're in that environment, come prepared, immunize yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be with confrontation. Or if you can avoid, that's also, you learn something. It's like walking down a path, and that path always ends up full of obstacles, or you're falling into traps. So next time you know, you've learned, as Edison said, this is not the path to walk on. Or if you do walk on this path, here are the pitfalls. The second thing you've learned. A third thing, how do you get around pitfalls? Let's say you have no choice but to engage. You're working with an employee, you're working at a job where another employee, a coworker, is just an obnoxious person. And you really can't avoid that person. So there's also, what have you learned of how to maneuver? So there are many things we can learn from negatives. That's taking a curse and turning it into a blessing. Because had you not had that challenge, had you not had that curse, quote unquote, you would never have learned from it. Now, in addition to all of that, it also helps you teach others. And that becomes another asset. What can you teach others about what you've learned? Look, at one of the greatest things in life is experience. What do they say? A man with money meets a man with experience. The man with experience ends up with the money, and the man with the money ends up with experience. So experience is what you learn, is when you learn the things that you don't want to experience. That's what experience teaches you. Because you learn from it. And when you learn from it, you're able to teach yourself and others a wisdom that can never have come unless you went through that experience. Now, at the moment, it could have been a serious fall. It could have been a serious setback. But over time, it's made you a far stronger and greater person. Hemingway wrote, life breaks all people, and some are stronger in the broken places. Unfortunately, he wasn't one of those someones. He went on and took his own life due to his own challenges. Not judging him, but that's what happened. But it's a very important point. Some are stronger in the broken places, because the brokenness, that alone teaches us, besides avoiding, but you become a stronger person because now you've been there. It's like that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And when you can get through it, you're far stronger, because before it happened, you may never know whether you can really make it. Now you know you can make it. I've heard this from many, many people who've gone through very difficult challenges in life. And they said the key thing that when I came out on the other side, which took time and energy, and I don't wish it on anyone, but I knew I can make it. I don't know if you remember, there was a film called Children of a Lesser God. I think it was also a play based on a book. It was about a deaf woman and a teacher in a school for the deaf, that fall in love with each other. The teacher obviously is also a speaking person. So the question is, can they really meet? Can they join? So at the end of the story, they actually, of course, they have their love, and then they have their tensions, they break up. At the end of it, the woman who was deaf, who had a lot of pride and a lot of intelligence, and she tells, when they rejoin and reunite, she says to the person, to her soulmate, so to speak, she says, I always used to retreat when I was hurt, because I thought when I get hurt, I would fall apart. So when I fell in love with you and we were connected, and then I got hurt, I had to run away because I felt I would be destroyed. What I discovered actually was that, and she uses her, uses her sign language, beautiful. She says, I realized, like a flower, that no, even when the wind comes and there's a storm, the petals don't just fly away. I can remain intact. I can be hurt. I can be vulnerable. I can feel deeply hurt and wounded, and I won't disappear. I won't disappear. I remember she does like this. I won't disappear. And then, of course, he says to her in return, is there a place we can meet that is beyond sound and beyond silence? It's very touching, very moving. But the point is, that's a very powerful statement. To say that we become invulnerable and we can't be hurt, that's just simply not realistic. But to say we can be hurt and not be destroyed, why? Because there's a part of you that you realize is invulnerable, that no matter what happens, that never disappears, is an unbelievable lesson in life. And it's very consistent to a theme you've probably heard me speak about many times. Birth is God saying you matter, that you are an indispensable force in existence. The way I like to put it is, you're an indispensable musical note in a cosmic symphony. And what you have to accomplish in this world, you and only you can accomplish. No matter what happens, whether you have a great day or you have a bad day, whether it's a day of blessing or a day of curse, you always remain intact. And that's what gives you the power to see the blessings within the curses. Obviously, to just look at a negative and say, okay, let me turn it into a positive, sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. But how do you maintain that fortitude? I remember years ago when I first was exposed, my naive young man I was, let's say more naive than I am today. And I was first exposed for the first time I saw real pain. People really were hurt in dysfunctional homes, abused. I'm not even going to get into the graphic details. And first I couldn't even believe that a parent can hurt a child to that extent. I just couldn't believe it. Not that I didn't believe what I was told, it was beyond my scope. I couldn't fathom it. So everybody has their dark side. Everybody can imagine behaving in an ugly way. But there's some things that are just off the reservation. You're just not capable of believing that a father could hurt his 5-year-old daughter, intentionally and deliberately, whatever distortions he goes through. And I remember looking at like the Twilight Zone. I went to read books about it. I remember the book, what was it called? It was called Courage to Heal. It was such a dramatic book, such a eye-opening book for me, as painful as it was, to see a different world, an inverted world of a child being destroyed and how they cope with it. So it opened up horizons that I had never seen before. But I remember thinking, this can really be depressing. People can be hurt to that extent and they're wounded and injured for their lives, for a lifetime. You know what it did for me? It didn't cause me to feel less hope. I became far stronger, and I was even more committed to bringing light into the world. So I remember speaking to someone who had gone through some really serious abuse and trauma in their lives. And I remember she said to me, how do you continue to always have this optimism? Like this eternal optimist. Is it some naivete? Is it some like unrealistic delusions? And I remember my knee-jerk response was, because I realized that light is stronger than darkness. And she said to me, no, you don't know what darkness is. That's why you say that. If you saw real darkness, the hopelessness of a child, every night, hoping for salvation and nothing coming, no one answering, God's not there, your mother's not there, the others are not there, and your cries for help are either laughed at or completely muffled or silenced. I remember my father with my siblings singing loud because your sister is crazy and she's crying in the bedroom. She says, you don't understand what darkness is. I said, maybe you don't know what light is like. It's not about light. It's a place that goes beyond silence and sound. There's a place that's beyond darkness and light. And that's the place where curses are transformed to blessings. And I am committed, no matter what, to that place. So it's not about, okay, which one is going to be more powerful. Of course, suffering can be quite overwhelming. But there's a place that's not just that's beautiful, but there's a place beyond beauty and beyond suffering. A place beyond curses and beyond blessings. That has the power, as the Kabbalists explain, to transform the darkness into light. It's coming from the very darkness. Why is it, I told her, I said, why is it that you're still here? Why is it that you built a family, a beautiful family? Why is it that when you hit rock bottom in this darkness, you still have some willpower? I don't know where it comes from. You know where it comes from? Because within the abyss, within the heart of darkness, in the darkest place of all, there lies a power that is a divine power, the power to conceal. And the Kabbalists explain, the Hasidic masters explain, that the worst concealment lies the concealment that transcends light. In other words, the concealment, the darkness below light, which is pain and suffering, originates from a darkness that precedes light, precedes structure, precedes revelation. And that's where the transformation of Balaam's blessings came from. That deeper place. Put it back in our language, that ultimately, no matter what happens in life, there's something greater than the positives and the negatives. Not just the positive is stronger than the negative. That we hear all the time. Light dispels darkness. That's true. But there's something about you that is deeper than the darkness and the light. And when you can access that, then darkness can become light. And indeed, in this case, I have to tell you, despite the fact, I'm not going to suggest you can change the past. Injuries don't go away, wounds don't go away, but you can become a stronger person. In this particular case, and many others I've seen a refinement, a deeper light, only a light that can come from real darkness. A light that you don't see regularly. It's not the sunlight, it's not daylight. It's a deeper light, a deeper refinement that comes from the souls that have been hurt. It's like a deeper truth that comes from a world of people living in a world where, like I often say, that an ugly truth is more beautiful than a beautiful lie. We live in a world of deception. And people who've gone through deception and seen duplicity and suffered from it, when they come to a level of honesty, their honesty is a very different level. And that's completely accessible. Now, I know I'm talking maybe in more extreme terms, but even the milder ones, where those of us that have not gone through such traumas, the lesson of Balaam is a tremendous lesson in life. Understanding that the negative, there's something deeper than the negative and the positive. And when you access that, the negatives can be turned into positives. Liabilities into assets. Challenges into opportunities. It's about your attitude. And here's the catch. At the end of the story, Balaam says to Balak, I can't curse these people. Because they're curses to them. There are people that are connected to God. And when they're connected to a higher source, even curses are turned to blessings. Because they're not subject. They're not at the mercy of our intentions. They will turn anything into positive. You can't destroy them. But I will give you advice. The only way to hurt them is let them hurt themselves. Send the women, the Midianite women, to seduce them. Let them be their own worst enemy. Basically, the message being, you can't hurt a person as long as your attitude is strong and you're connected. Nothing, even the negative, will be turned into a positive. That doesn't mean negative things don't happen, like I said, but they'll be turned into a positive. But if you lose that confidence, if you lose that fortitude and that strength, then you open yourself up. You become vulnerable. And once you become vulnerable, you become your own worst enemy. It's not even the other. As much as they wanted to hurt them, the Jews, they could not, until the Jews themselves hurt themselves. But let's end on a positive note. It's in our hands, my friends. It's in your hands. You'll say, well, I'm one little person. I feel down today. I feel demoralized. I feel broken. So find others. Find friends, kindred spirits. We're here for each other. That's why we're here, to lean on each other, to help each other. No one can replace you, but we can support each other. There's no such thing as hopelessness. Hopelessness, if you feel hopeless, so find someone that can give you a nice, kind word of hope today, a ray of light. Find a good mentor to speak to. Doesn't have to be perfect, but don't allow despair to control your life. Don't allow darkness to control your life. That when you wake up in the morning, always feel today can be a better day. Just like a new sun is shining, a new dawn has broken, a new morning has started, new hope is peeking into your life. What you need to do is have that attitude and access it. So even when the dark comes, know the darkness can also be turned into light and a new day will come. And please see me and the Meaningful Life Center as one of those friends. Obviously, trust has to be earned, but that's what I offer to you. And I hope we can reciprocate for each other. That's what we're here for. That's why we're here in this world, is to illuminate, to bring hope, to bring strength, to turn curses into blessings. And each of us can do that. And I thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. This has been Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life Center. MeaningfulLife.com is our website where you can find this and many other programs. Please, I'd love to hear from you. Thoughts, comments, questions, suggestions, and also share. Let's share with each other. Everyone have a very blessed week. And even the challenges, may they be turned even to greater blessings. The greatest light comes from darkness. Be well.